Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now August 16th of 2023, and given that we are getting closer to September, which by the way is going to be the very month in which Disney plans to drop the official trailer to Snow White 2024, that's going to, I believe, really cause even more backlash among the fans, and really, hopefully, it'll wake up Disney to realize that the backlash is real, that it's not a minority, that it is indeed the majority of fans on every single side, every single aspect, whatever level of a fan you really are of the original animated material. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on here with Bob Iger. Now, you all know Bob Iger. I like to call him Bob Liger because all this guy does is lie. But he has really been defending Disney, trying to make it seem like that Disney is doing so very well and that they're going to do even better next year throughout 2024 and beyond into 25. And that's just not the case. We talked about this briefly yesterday, that LUCASFILM is shutting down, some of their studios, one of which, of course, holds hundreds of employees. We touched on that a little bit. That is actually a part of the LUCASFILM purge that we talked about that was going to begin to happen a couple weeks ago. It just started happening yesterday, and it's a result of Bob Iger's cost containment plan. And don't be surprised, because there are going to be further firings over at LUCASFILM over in California. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot to do with Bob Iger and his treatment on Snow White, and how he literally admitted that this movie is going to be horrible, alright? Not that he's necessarily defending it, but he inadvertently admitted how horrible this movie really is going to be, so let's get into this. Now, with Snow White 24 going through much backlash as Bob Iger and the board head into damage control further, however, one major development has much to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger, when he recently commented on the upcoming Snow White film by delivering the following. When we here at Disney analyze feedback from large audience members, there are always some projects that make us realize, of course, that the world needs to be regulated. We have noticed this with both The Little Mermaid and our upcoming Snow White films, for fans that have been rejecting those iterations, both of which are starring actresses of color, and we are wholeheartedly proud of making that decision. Unlike with The Little Mermaid, that followed the original closely as possible, with Snow White, we wanted to explore a fresh, new tale that was going to inspire young women, and here he goes, and even grown women to become a leader and to stand their ground. This is the core pitch that we accepted from Mark Webb, and we were all for it. This will most certainly be our most diverse Disney live-action remake yet in history, and we couldn't be more happy about that. I am unwilling to comment on the 7 dwarfs and how they will be presented, other than we really wanted to make them diverse both race and gender-wise. This is a Snow White story that will not follow the original 37 film as initially planned back in 2020. So let me pause here about what Bob Iger is putting out there before I get to the next thing that he touches on, is that, so he touches on the fact that the 7 dwarves, he doesn't want to comment on that because he knows how much backlash that actually got for the movie of Snow White, but he does admit that they will be the most diverse series of characters in Snow White, both gender-wise and both race-wise. So that does, I believe, match directly up, call me crazy, it matches directly up with those leaked photographs. If you look closely, I believe there was 2 of them in there that were females, if you look very close. It makes you wonder, why are they doing this? Well, at the end of the day, we all know why. It's a part of their DEI agenda. They want to promote diversity, equality, and all this nonsense that just takes away from the story, takes away from character development. And let me be clear, I'm all for diversity, I'm all for equality and all of that, but let it come naturally. Let it just spill into the story naturally as a person writing the story writes it, and maybe along the way it fits the actual role or it fits the plot, and then you just kind of take it from there. When you're focusing on these agendas as your number one priority, that's why the story suffers. That's why the character development suffers. Like anything else, if you focus on one big thing over the other, that one on the bottom is going to suffer the most, and character development and the plot are the most important. So that brings us to the next piece about what Bob Iger goes on to touch on. So he goes on to elaborate further. Somewhere along the way we had this great idea to experiment with one of our most popular characters to hold a new iteration design and by personality as well. We have a new hero in this film that will not be the traditional prince you all remember, and I think this will be our most successful film of 2024. We did fairly well with Little Mermaid. Notice how he says fairly well. We did fairly well with Little Mermaid, and we expect to do even better with this film. Many groups will say that this is us engaging in culture wars, but we don't get involved in any of that, nor do we provoke any of those kind of things. This is nothing more than approaching a new iteration of the character, very much like Little Mermaid, and what we have planned for our upcoming live-action remakes. Again, Bob Iger, again, loves the word iteration. That's his favorite word, right? At the end of the day, I just call it a swap. That's all it really is. We've seen what they did with The Little Mermaid. Without a doubt, there's tons of people that did not like that movie for several reasons. Both what they did with the design of the film, it looked very cheap to me. I don't know about you guys, but the CGI looked very odd in many sequences, almost where it looked like it was undone. But it wasn't just that. You know, Halle Bailey, alright? Even though she's a very nice actress, she's not like Rachel Zegler, who's so insufferable and saying all these crazy things. That's the one plus that I give to Bailey. But the one minus that I give to Bailey is the fact that she accepted the role by Disney, knowing that going in, you probably would get a level of backlash like this. You know, I think that what Disney should do is that they should just stick to the original characters and how they were actually showcased in the original animated material. I don't know what's so hard about that. If you want to make it different of what Bob Iger calls an iteration of a character, then maybe make like something like Little Mermaid's, you know, friend or cousin, I don't know, something like that, right? Or just make it like a side character in the movie, something fresh and unique. That's all you really have to do. So that's where more problems come into play here. Now we know that Snow White is receiving much damage control by Disney, you know, the board of directors, Bob Iger. They're really trying to tame this thing. And that's why the official trailer, it's going to be very watered down once it gets presented at D23. Now, we talked about D23. There's a lot of rumblings out there, and we talked about this yesterday. We touched on this a little bit, that there's a possibility that they want to cancel the D23 event. Not because of the event having so very few announcements, which it will, it's going to have far fewer announcements, but the fact that they feel a better way to do this would to just be announce these in a more traditional way, just by getting it out to the trades and announcing it that way, spending less money streaming this thing and stuff like that. That's how bad Disney's getting. So I would like to hear what your take on all this is below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.